Good evening and welcome to the HBCU Homecoming 2020 SUSLA GSU Artist Reunion Zoom Masterclass Series. Tonight's workshop, History of GSU and its Performing Arts Programming. This series sponsors are the National Endowment of the Arts, AT&T, Shreveport Regional Arts Council.
Wait.
I too.
Wait.
There we go. This series sponsors are the National Endowment of the Arts, AT&T, Shreveport Regional Arts Council, City of Shreveport, the Carolyn W. and Charles T. Baird Family Foundation. Go ahead and go to slide 3, Pam. Tonight's panelists are Dr. Mildred Gallo, Dr. Alex C. Marshall, and Mr. Albert Bostic. Dr. Mildred Gallo is an historian, a writer, and author. She was named professor and head of history of Grambling State University and an inductee into the Grambling State University Hall of Fame. Dr. Gallo is famously known for her book, The History of Grambling State University. And we'll definitely talk more about that as we get into our session. Our next panelist, Dr. Alex C. Marshall, is the co-founder and artistic director of Omni Artiste in Lafayette, Louisiana. He is a ULL Performing Arts Theater professor and community leader. Dr. Marshall believes in the art of theater and encourages all to act by doing. Dr. Marshall has been working 40 years in the industry. And our final panelist is Mr. Albert H. Bostic, Jr. He has a diverse career that spans over 40 years in the pursuit of artistic excellence. Bostic is an actor, director, playwright, choreographer, visual artist, folklorist, and storyteller. In short, he is a true Renaissance artist. Bostic currently is arts director for his own Renaissance arts organization. Basically, Bostic Projects Incorporated, which provides and creates performance and performance opportunities for African-American artists in the Oklahoma City area. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again our panelists, Dr. Mildred Gallo, Dr. Marshall, and Mr. Bostic. Welcome, welcome, welcome. First, what I would like to do, I know we're kind of behind time, but we're gonna just do this swiftly. If you would, we'll start with Dr. Gallo. Dr. Gallo, if you would, go ahead and unmute yourself and just give us a little bit more information about yourself, just briefly, and then we'll move to Mr. Marshall as well as Mr. Bostic. Ms. Gallo, you have to mute yourself. We don't hear you. Unmute.
We're trying to get you unmuted, Ms. Gallo. Are you able to hit your?
Yes, she's asking for someone for their help. She needs to be unmuted. I see her asking. She's trying to get it done. Yes.
All righty.
There you go, Miss Dr. Gallo. You're unmuted, I believe now. Say something to us. There you go.
Right. I was a property officer at Grambling State University for 16 years. And then I was professor of, assistant professor of history at Grambling. And then eventually I became the head of the history department, history and geography department. I taught American history, world history, social science education. I also taught trends and strategies in teaching social studies. That was a master's program. And I enjoyed every bit of it. I have 3 children, Daphne, Loretta, and Rick, and 9 grandchildren, and my husband, Richard. And we've been married for 60 years, and we're still living in Grambling, and I've never worked anyplace else but Grambling.
Wow, isn't that wonderful? Thank you, Ms. Gallo, Dr. Gallo. Let's move on to Dr. Marshall. Dr. Marshall, go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us a little bit more about yourself. We can't hear you, Dr. Marshall.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. There you go.
All right. Okay. Okay. All right.
Yes, I'm ready. You can go ahead and just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I first must begin with Dr. Mildred Gallo, because we go way back when she was at Dunbar High School. And that's where I knew her as a student there, and we were very close to her family there at the Dunbar High School and out there at Whiteville. But about me, first of all, I am a product of Grambling State University. I graduated from there, and I taught there. And I was also, and what brought me to Grambling was because of what I did at Dunbar at the high school in theater. And so as a result of my going there, and Dr. Floyd Sandel and George Wesley, they would be the adjudicators for the high school festival, and they saw my work. And when after my receiving my master's, I was able to go back and teach there. And it has been a wonderful, wonderful experience there at Grambling State University.
All right. And just keep yourselves, you guys can go ahead and keep yourselves unmuted so you don't have to keep going back and forth. And
Okay.
finally, Mr. Bostic, Mr. Albert H. Bostic, go ahead and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, first of all, this is going to be a love fest because Dr. Marshall is my mentor. I came from New Orleans, Louisiana, and hit Grambling and ran into Dr. Marshall. This is, he instilled in me, you know, this whole thing about Black theater, but more importantly, he told me that he is also going to help me be able to become a performer in theater as a whole. So he introduced me to Eurocentric theater, African American theater, and he challenged me all over. I am Oklahoma's true Renaissance artist, because early in life I learned that all of the arts feed each other. So Dr. Marshall, George Wesley, Dr. Allen Williams all encouraged me to feed each of those arts. And so I just blossomed while I was there at that college.
Wonderful. So let's
Mhm.
take it back to Dr. Gallo. Dr. Gallo, tell us a little bit about, just briefly, just, kind of skimming through the book, A History of Grambling State University, and give us some things, because I know you and I talked on the phone as well about some of the social things that used to happen back then in the day. So talk to us about that.
Well, when I came to Grambling in 1955, there was very little going on here. And two people that I guess influenced me was Miss Catherine Williams and
Mm.
Dr. C. Henry. Uh, we didn't have anything to do on the campus. And so they would, on Thursday nights, we were told that we could wear our blue jeans and we could go in front of the men's gym and we could do some square dancing. Dr. Henry taught us how to do square dancing. And of course, Miss Williams taught us how to do social dancing and other things like that. But basically, once a week, they had us out in front of the gym having activities that we normally would not have. And then, of course, later on, we had choir and dancing and other things like that.
Okay, and before I go to Dr. Marshall, when was, do you know, just let me start with that question first, when the, some of those performing arts organizations, when were they formed? More specifically, the choir, more specifically theater, and more specifically dance, and the band.
Okay, the choir was directed by Mr. L.L. Lusk. And I'm familiar with the choir because my sister was a member of the choir. She sang alto. We had another good friend whose name was Claudette Crockett from Bruley, Louisiana, who sang, she was very good as a soprano. And they traveled all over the area performing choir programs in Opelousas, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, for particularly at the Black schools, because they had no entertainment. So then the choir, and believe it or not, they slept on the bleachers in the various schools because there was no place for them to sleep. So they brought their blankets and pillows and slept on the bleachers so that they could perform for the students. Sometimes they stayed a couple of nights and then they moved on to another venue and then back to Grambling. Let's see, then the band. The band got started in 1945, I believe. Well, actually it got started before that because President Jones was the director of the band. And then later on, Mr. Lee was the band director. And then of course we had Prof. Hutchison. And I was most pleased with Prof. Hutchison because he taught me how to play the trumpet. But I only served one summer because in high school I played the drums, but he wanted me to play something else. So I played the trumpet. My sister was also in the band, And she became a music major, and her instrument was the French horn. And then she was also a piano student. So, and she graduated in music from Grambling, and became band director at Bachelor High School in Bachelor, Louisiana. Then from then on, she went to, she became the teacher for the choir. She did the choir, and they traveled all over the state to the World's Fair, to the dedication of certain activities, and she taught 35 years. And I'm trying to think of someone who Mr. Marshall probably knows, but
Miss Catherine Williams. So when did she start the Orchesis?
oh, that was a long time, a long time ago. She was teaching. She was teaching dance. Nobody else was teaching dance. She was teaching dance. So, but Orchesis, I didn't dance well, so I didn't have the rhythm. But she had some pretty good students, and so they danced, and they went to various places too, entertaining and performing for those Black students at the high schools. And they occasionally they went to some of the schools in the state, like, I mean, out of state, like Atlanta, somebody else, I recall them going to, can't remember, not right now where they went, but they did. They did a lot of, you know, and she was, did you ever dance with her?
No, Miss Catherine was there when I came to Grambling. At the time I came to Grambling, Diane Maroney Grigsby had taken the torch. So by the time I got to Grambling in the fall of 1993, Diane Maroney, who is now Diane Maroney Grigsby, was there as the director and instructor and choreographer over the Orchesis Dance Company. So she was the third leg because after, I think before she headed the Orchesis, Virgie Broussard
Who
was over the Orchesis and over the dancers, and then Diane came. And before I get to you, Dr. Marshall, because I'm gonna talk a little bit about Diane and her legacy, and then Mr. Bostic, I'll get to you because we talked about male Orchesis back then, and I didn't know that there were male Orchesis back in the day. So we'll get to that, but let me quickly talk about Diane. Diane Maroney came to Grambling with performing with Alvin Ailey Dance Company, Alvin Ailey II, in 1983. She came there to perform for the students there, and she wanted to. She had told her director that she wanted, you know, to go back to school. You know, they had talked about that over time. She always said how she wanted to go back to school and get her degree. Came to Grambling, they performed, and she was introduced to Catherine Williams and some other instructors there, and the rest is history. So Diane ended up coming back to Grambling, and she came back to Grambling in exchange for her pay. So rather than them paying her, she got her education. So her being over the Orchesis and teaching the dance classes would be her fee for her education. So that's how Diane got started. Of course, Diane Maroney Grigsby danced with Alvin Ailey II for many years. Very beautiful dancer, very artistic, very well-known. They traveled the world. She traveled the world with Ailey, but she took the Orchesis Dance Company to a different level. I believe the Orchesis then started, they upped the ante as it relates to dancing with the band. And she was a game changer. So a lot of things changed, the costumes, you know, how they groomed themselves, all of those things changed. And she instilled and made sure that they were still being technically trained. So they were not just they didn't just dance in the fall for football season. They also danced for concert season. So they danced on the stage, they traveled, went to a lot of different places. I recall when I was there, we traveled, I was a freshman, and very unusual for freshmen to come in and immediately start dancing, but came in and we were traveling California, you know, New York, Chicago. I mean, we were gone all the time. And also I was afforded the opportunity to travel with the band when they went to Africa as well as Japan. So very exciting, very great times. Diane Maroney is still doing her thing. She's trying to retire. So she'll be retiring probably within the next year or so. But that's what I have about Diane and a little bit about me being at Grambling. But Dr. Marshall, let me go to Mr. Bostic. So Mr. Bostic.
Yes.
Talk to me about the male dancers of the Orchesis.
Well, at that time, Mrs. Williams was doing concert dancing. So we had a spring concert and a fall concert. And there was three of us, three males that danced with the company. And she, again, started to teach us, you know, the technique. She also taught a class called Tap and Folk for the campus. And so many of the football players ended up getting their experience in dance by taking that class. But she exposed us to black choreographers and also to black musicians. My favorite piece that we did there was a thing, William Grant Still's Saji, which if you know anything about the Harlem Renaissance, Elaine Locke wrote a play called Saji. And then Grant Still composed a classical piece of music, and it turned into a ballet that was done during the Harlem Renaissance. And Mrs. Williams actually revived that, and we performed that at Grambling.
Right, love it, love it.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Marshall, I know you
You'll get to me. Finally, you're going to get to me.
Finally, I'm going to get to you.
Okay. I'm gonna hit that shoulder. Behave yourself.
I know you're going. I know you will. Okay.
So, talk to us about you as an instructor at GSU and what you imparted to our students.
Oh,
and I know that they've ended up great because Mr. Bostic is doing his thing in Oklahoma, and Dr. Ava Brewster Turner is doing her thing in Baton Rouge. So talk to us about what you imparted to the students at that time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me get a kudo to Dr. Floyd Sandel, because he was the one who started the speech and drama department at that time. That's what they called them at Grambling in the early 40s. And I was not a major, but I was a part of the performing arts group. But the thing about all of this is that when you see a product like Al Bostic and there are others, Ava Brewster, and there are others, you know that you were doing the right thing. Mm. And I instilled them, first of all, that Black theater was just as good as any other kind of theater. And I say that because at that time, you know, during the early 70s when I was there, and even before, we would get this thing, you know, from the powers that be that, number one, there was no such thing as Black theater. Mm. Then another thing was that our poets and dramatists were inferior people. And I put up my hand and I said, I will prove you wrong.
Yes, you
And
did.
guess what?
Mm.
You proved them wrong.
He
Prove
proved
them wrong.
it.
We were national winners. You know where I'm going, Bostic?
Yes, sir.
We were national winners with A Raisin in the Sun.
Yes.
Written by who? Lorraine
Hans.
Hansberry. You hear me? We were a part of what we call American College Theater Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And because of our affiliation, we were given the opportunity to compete with all of, on the state, regional, and national level. And we competed and became, as I said before, national winners.
Yes.
That wasn't the only time. Now that was in the early part, in the late 60s. Then along came Judy Ann Mason.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that name?
Yep.
Yes.
Judy Ann Mason, who became a prolific playwright. And all of that came from Grambling. And she wrote a play called Living Fat about a Black family, which we entered into the competition. She won an award to go to and study with Norman Lear. The play did an off-Broadway production by the Negro Ensemble Company. We on a roll.
Mm-hmm.
We would go to A Star Ain't Nothing But a Hole in Heaven. That was another Lorraine Hansberry winner. So we did nothing but winners, and we did nothing but Black material by our playwrights, you know? And we pushed that forward. We pushed that forward, and that is was instilled in them, and it's instilled in Bostic.
Yes.
Am I right?
You're right. You
100%. Deeply instilled, because I'm not going to let you tell me that my culture and my artists are inferior. I'm not going to stand for it. You hear me? And I wouldn't stand for it. And as a result of that, all of my students that I've taught, not only at Grambling, but at Hampton and UL and also Dillon, they all have come with this, because I would always say, act well your part.
Your part. Therein your honor lies.
All honor lies, you know?
Yep.
That was my mantra, you know, to them at that particular time. And I don't care what it was that, and Bostic alluded to that, is that when you were in the theater, you did everything.
Yes.
You learned how to do everything. I wanted to make this point too. We were challenged at Grambling in the early years, because they used to say that if you were a speech and drama major, you had to double major. And I thought that was a slap in my face. And I knew the reason behind it, because they were saying, well, you'd be difficult to find a job. You know, it's difficult to find a job anywhere. Mm-hmm. And we were able to get students to focus then on speech and theater as a major. And that is one reason why we had them to do the lights, makeup, scene design, everything. So when the time would come, you would not necessarily act. You could do anything in the theater and out of the theater because of that. So what I'm saying too, I'm going to make this statement too. When we were there, and still is, GSU, Grambling State University, was known for its marching band, right? But before we left, it was known, the speech and theater,
yes,
speech and theater department was known all around the world because of our students.
That's it.
And with that segue, we are going to take, we have to take a break, guys. Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we're going to come back, and Dr. Marshall, we're going to pick right back up with you because you're on fire. And then we're going to go back to Mr. Bostic, and we're going to wrap up with some questions from our audience if we have any. So Pam, you can go ahead and cue up our music, and we will be back in 5 minutes.
All right.
What you said, boss?
Hey, Doc, how you?
So good to see you.
You too. You a mess. You know that?
I see.
You got a thump coming on that left shoulder.
I got one. I couldn't help it, boss.
I know. I said that long before we got. I was getting on Zoom. I said I'm gonna have to hit him on the shoulder.
Man, you're looking good.
I'm feeling better. You know, I'm trying to stay away from this COVID.
Yeah.
Working hard.
You're working hard. Look, I talked to your kind friend the other day.
Who is that?
Your kind friend.
Oh, Mr. Hyatt. Mr. Hyatt, yes.
Mr. Hyatt, yeah.
Good friend.
Yeah, he's been trying to get you to come and get that MFA, right?
He you know, he's always trying to get me to do that, but he ain't sending no checks.
Oh, okay. But the way he told me he had something planned for you.
You know, Mr. Hyatt always got plans, Dr. Marshall.
Okay.
He always talk about them plans. And I keep telling him, I said, okay, so the proof of the plan is you send me that airplane ticket and get me up there and we ready to work. And then I don't hear from him. but I giggle at him all the time. Look at him, boy. Shakespeare was hiring a person. Content. Huh? Go back.
Hang on, everyone. We didn't have it right. Just a minute.
Okay. Everybody's on mute.
All right, we are back. If you guys can go ahead and unmute yourselves.
Unmuted.
Right. From dear old Grambling. I love Grambling so much, guys. I love Grambling so much. I've learned so much at Grambling and learned a lot. And I didn't major, of course, in dance because we didn't have a major at the time when I came in 1993, but my major was mass communication. So Dr. Marshall, I am in total agreement with you because while I was on campus, I not only worked in radio and television, but I also was an editor of the Grambling Night. I also worked at the TV station. I did production at the TV station as well. So I was in front of the scenes as well as behind the scenes, radio production, editing. I did the news you can use at GSU. So I did everything and I made sure that I learned all the aspects, public relations, marketing. So all the aspects of mass communication along with still dancing, still performing, and still trying to live up to what it was that Diane Maroney Grigsby needed me to live up to. So yes, and I am a sole believer in learning all aspects of the arts. And even if you're not, well-versed in music, or even if you're not well-versed in theater or dance, but whatever you're well-versed in, you should still know all the elements that come behind that so that you can enrich yourself and be able to maneuver. So anything that you have to do, you will be able to maneuver and have a clear understanding of that area and genre. So you're not frustrated because it's like, okay, all I know is this, but I don't understand that. But just having an understanding of the other performing arts makes you a better artist. Okay, so Dr. Marshall, let's go back to you again. You can unmute yourself. You got it?
Unmute.
Pam, if you would, go ahead and unmute Dr. Marshall, please.
Yeah.
Did you figure it out, Dr. Marshall? Okay, so while we're waiting on him, go ahead, Mr. Bostic. Let us have something about your experience.
Well, as I said, being a drama student at the university at Grambling, Dr. Marshall, George Wesley, Dr. Allen Williams, and Mr. Fred Hall were the professors when I was there. Mr. Wesley was the technical theater side. So he allowed me to be able to experience how to build a set, how to build a flat, and then he allowed me to design several of the sets for several of the plays. So, I mean, I spent a lot of my time in the theater. As a matter of fact, my mantra was always, I got rehearsal.
It's mine too.
because Dr. Marshall and Mr. Wesley, all of them expected us to be there. Dr. Marshall, we call boss, BOSS, the boss. And, he did not play. He made sure that we were on time for rehearsals. If we were touring, we were on time for tours. I don't know if he remembers, I tell him the story of gentleman Foster Rambo. We were traveling to do Divine Comedy by Owen Dotson. And he said the bus is leaving at 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, Foster Rambo was running across the quadrangle trying to make the bus. Dr. Marshall said, pull out. And now we're looking at him going, who's going to do the part? I'm sitting in the back because I'm working lights. He drops the script in my lap and says, learn this by the time we get there. So I literally had to learn Mr. Rambo's part to be able to do that particular production. And luckily, he also made us a family. So all the other actors got around me in the back of the bus and ran lines with me till we got there, and we were able to run that show. So he was an amazing man, and the experiences that I got there were like no other. As Dr. Marshall was saying, Black playwrights, I had no idea the depth and the wealth of the Black playwrights that we had. Being able to do Divine Comedy by Owen Dotson, which has long since been one of my favorite pieces. You know, every class there was something new to learn, and you know, you would go home exhausted at night. I felt very honored to be, to sit at their places, at their feet to learn the things that I had to learn. But what they always told me was that, when you leave here, I'm going to have to go into to work with Eurocentric playwrights as well. And so when I went to the University of Oklahoma, I was the only African-American graduate student there. And because of Dr. Marshall and because of Mr. Wesley, I was also aware of Eugene O'Neill, of Ibsen, of Chekhov, and all of those. The joke was, I had a professor who told me we were studying Chekhov, and he asked me if I knew who he was. And what I remember Dr. Marshall giving me was, Chekhov was, this play. I said, oh, you mean Anton Chekhov, the man who wrote The Cherry Orchard, that I like to call the cherry torture because it's 3 hours too long, and the fall of the Russian aristocracy is represented by the breaking of the balalaika string in the third act. And when I did that to that professor, he was like, oh, you know who he is. Oh, yes, I was introduced to Chekhov. Thank you. So we were prepared.
But and
now, do you know Lorraine Hansberry?
And that's the point,
Mm-hmm.
that because we are African American artists, we have to know
It
the
all.
Euro as well as the Afro. So
Yeah.
we have to be exposed to what? Everyone's everything.
Yes, and because of that, I heard you, Dr. Marshall. Yes, I know Miss Lorraine Hansberry. As a matter of fact, I just recently directed A Raisin in the Sun for a Eurocentric theater here in Oklahoma and introduced them. And I, again, had to call Dr. Marshall's name. I used to tell him I'm a dinosaur because I was taught by the best, and my expectation is going to be that you are there for rehearsal, on time. We start on time, we finish on time, and if you're not careful, you're gonna learn a little something along the way.
And that's how they were. That's how Diane still is.
Yes.
Come on time, and if you're late, just turn around.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Have a seat and watch because you missed it.
Yeah.
We've had warm up. We've done our little, whatever's at the beginning, and we've started. And that's the discipline. That's what a lot of our students are missing, the discipline.
The discipline of art. That's it.
How it keeps you grounded, and how it is, this is the time, this is the place. We're gonna go at it. We're gonna work ourselves, and we are going to be the best.
Well, that's that sacred place. That theater was a sacred place. That's, again, one of the first things that we learned. That theater is our sacred place. And Dr. Marshall gave me the opportunity to come to different places, because once he left Grambling, he went to Dillard. He brought me to Dillard to do workshops with students in New Orleans. And I arrived there thinking I'm gonna be a teacher. Dr. Marshall brought me into the auditorium, looked at me and said, okay, take it, boss. I was like, what? I mean, I'm just here to teach a class. Nope. He made sure that I was able to follow and deal with those students, and he let those students know what the expectation was, and this is their first introduction to theater. You see, he also decided to do The Wiz one year. I always laugh at him and tell him he blew out my knees because he brought me in to choreograph The Wiz for him at Dillard, and that will long be one of my favorite pieces. And I remind the students of all the work that we did to make that thing happen. And the uniqueness of that one was that he decided to set the Wiz in Africa. And that's what made it so.
Yeah. Hey, get me in on this conversation here.
Go ahead,
Yeah, Dr. Marshall is right on you.
I'm in?
Yeah.
You are in.
Oh. Dr. Gallo, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you too.
You can see me too?
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It has.
All right.
I wanted to ask if Brandon was still in Atlanta.
Yeah, he's in Dothan, Alabama.
Oh, okay.
But he's pastoring there in Dothan.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to say this, that so many times students don't really understand when we have this discipline thing until they leave.
That's it.
And they have to experience it. Then they'll call back or they'll put on Facebook, now I know.
That's it.
Now I know, because of that discipline that I was, and now I wanted to also say, and you mentioned it too earlier in what you were saying, that there's no really one thing in terms of being an artist. You have to be a triple threat. Am I right?
Yes,
Yes,
or
you
more.
Are. Yes.
In order to make it as a part of what your plans are. For an example, I have one of my former students, she was in acting and all of that, but she also ran the box office. Now she's in marketing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the way it happens?
That's how it happens.
Because of the individual who has been taught, as you were saying earlier, right, a multiplicity of things that they do well. You don't have to be perfect yet, but you can do well, and you work on it and you become. But back to the theater at Grambling. Also, we talked about, we did productions like Land Beyond the River.
Yes.
That deals with desegregation, and the Star the Blind Pig. We are talking about there, a blind blues singer, and the thing about it is that there's education both ways. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. We had developed a performing arts wing that, and Box remember that when we would do play directing plays,
mm-hmm.
the audience was full, overpacked.
Yep.
Just play directing class.
Full house.
A full house. We had that kind of reputation, in terms of that the students would come to see students direct.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the heyday. When you get, or when you do theatrical experience that the audience can relate to, they don't mind coming.
That's right.
We didn't mind them coming and talking back to us. You remember I said call and response? We didn't mind that, because that was a part of what? Our culture.
Part of the culture.
So we didn't mind that. And they enjoyed that part of, because they knew that, number one, they knew when they came into the theater, they were coming to see and be a part of an experience. But that's the way we worked. Yep. We worked real hard to make it. We rehearsed. That's why we rehearsed hard, to make sure that you were moved when you came to the theater. Right. If it was a comedy, you laughed, If it's something serious, you cried. Mm-hmm. If it's something make you angry, you did that too. And we also had a performance where we did nothing but poetry, music, bongos, and That's all we did. That was an evening performance. We did choral reading.
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe that? Choral reading.
All a part of it.
And all right,
That's it.
audience is packed. Students understand. Students learn as a result of that. And as I said earlier, when you get a product like yourself, when you get a product like Bostic and I wanted to say Arthur Allen, had got his PhD from Freeport, got his PhD in playwriting. You know, he got a little of that at Grambling. That's why he got his start. He was also in A Raising the Sun, playing against old Bostic.
That's right.
Bobo.
I studied him.
You know, Bobo. So it's hard work, but it's rewarding.
Yes.
And it's a
Yes.
lifelong experience. You never forget.
Lifelong. Never
Am I
forget,
right?
and you continue to learn as you go on your journey.
Exactly.
I want to take it back to Dr. Gallo. Dr. Gallo, talk to us about some of the times that were very similar to what we may be, that what we're facing today as it relates to race relations and the police brutality and all of those things that we are really going through today. In my mind, that is kind of a history repeat. But how was the campus then during those times?
Well, the campus did have protests.
Exactly.
They protested at the administration building. They protested at the auditorium. They slept out on the lawn, which was unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
They President Jones was so upset about that, happening. And one of the students who was student government president was dismissed from the campus because he wanted it to, they used to call Fred Uncle Tom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they wanted, they were against some of the things that, was going on. They also protested against the athletes because they felt that the athletes were getting better privileges than they did. And so they protested about that they had steak and, the other students had other things, had spaghetti or they had red beans or something like that. But they protested in many ways. And of course, the National Guard had come to Grambling a couple of times and to keep the people from, the protesters from going off the campus and the other people from coming on the campus. It was really not a mixture of the, of the students and the outsiders, as we see today that the people who are protesting, you have people from all over California, whatever. We didn't have that because the National Guard stood at the end of Main Street in Grambling and at the end of Main Street on the other end, and you were not allowed to go out and the others were not allowed to come in. It was a closed, even though it was not a closed campus, it was a closed campus because the president and Dean Cole, said that can't happen. And of course, they were a part of their times, and they didn't, they had come through more than we had come through, but then others have come through since that time to bring on more things that we did not experience.
Mhm.
So it was a trying times for us. I remember I had gone to Hawaii with the band for the football game, and I called home and I found out that somebody had set the student union on fire.
Mm.
Mhm.
Somebody had broken the glass in the dining hall, you know. So then it wasn't a large group; it was a small group, but they wanted to show that they were not happy about what was going on.
Roshanda,
Yes.
let me piggyback on that. What she was saying about the protests.
Yes.
Uh, as a result of the protests, that's the reason why I got me a job. Because what happened was that many of the head professors had what 2 or 3 jobs, right, Mildred?
Yeah.
And they didn't think that was fair for them to have that many titles and jobs, when there could be others. And that's the reason why I was hired. So thanks to the protests.
And
Yeah.
so with that, how did that affect or not affect what we were doing as it relates to performance art? Of course, we were already celebrating us because that's what we did. But
Mhm.
did that increase in some ways? Did that lend to, trying to, do more productions based on possibly what was going on during the time? What happened? What was going on in the performing arts at that time when we were dealing with the protest?
See, well, at that time, as I alluded before, you didn't have that many faculty members because others who were like, you may have had a dean who was also teaching full time.
Mhm.
You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
Or you may have a dean or head of department having another major job. So as a result of the protest, that opened it up for other professors to come in and contribute to what was going on. So when I came in, then I was able to expand things as relates to what we talked about earlier, Black theater. Other departments were done the same. So you were bringing in fresh ideas from, fresh people coming in, which was expanding things. And also they were, I would say we were younger, which means that we could relate more to them as a result of our coming in. So that really was the growth for the entire campus. They didn't realize it at the time, but that was the thing that really happened, because I was the one who came in again, when I looked and saw that they were doing plays written by the Europeans, with the maids in them. I said, we are better than that.
Right.
So that was an expansion right there, right? We're gonna do, as I said earlier, plays that deal with social issues. We're gonna face those things that causes us to be unhappy in our history, or everybody can share and relate to, and do something about it. Do some thinking.
And we also did some one acts, that were from the Revolutionary Theater.
There you go.
Some bold.
Right.
Of course, we had, Black History Month, in which we did those one acts, and we, the students, were allowed to direct those kinds of things for the stage. So, yeah, I can definitely remember several of those.
And I know from my experience just being there and dancing under Diane's direction, she always, and I think that's probably why I want to always tell a story.
Oh yeah,
She always ensured that anything that we did, any pieces of choreography, there was a piece called Church Ladies.
Uh-huh.
And we had our fans, and we were
Right.
sitting on our stools, and we
Right.
had
Right.
our hats.
That's
Yeah.
She told us a story
Yeah.
before she started that choreography. And so, it- so much I want to say.
Catherine
It
Williams was a thing.
it all just intertwines and weaves in, and that makes the performance even more, even more better. I don't even know
Yeah.
if that's proper. Even
Yeah.
more better,
Yeah.
because you have what? You have a background.
Mm-hmm.
You've been told the story. You know what happened. So now you're trying to do what? Make that thing come to life. So that,
Roshanda,
yes, sir.
that was one thing that I always would tell our students. In fact, we would always pray, but we would always have a chant. I would always tell them to tell the story. And that's the way they were taught by Anthony. You're a storyteller.
Yes.
That's a part of the big what? Storyteller, but you
Yes.
are a storyteller, and you tell the story according to what the artist has what? Put out there for you. And by telling the story, it becomes not only a part of you, but it becomes a part of what? The whole.
Yes.
Am I right? It becomes
Yes.
a part, it becomes a part of the whole. So that was one of our chances, was to tell the story, be the character, tell the story. And as a result of telling the story, and you alluded that your audience what follows you, and they become a part of the story.
And what
And
builds
they spread the word. They spread the word.
What builds on that, Dr. Marshall, is the thing that I learned that I now carry on as a director is, in order to be myself, I have to see myself.
All right.
So I tell my students that same thing. That and so when you went into the Eurocentric thing, I used to tell, I don't see myself. So we need to make a change. If you're going to have me there as a student, then you also have got to give me something that will actually ring true for me. And in that way, I'm teaching you to be able to respect what I do as well as you want me to respect what you do. You see? So that becomes very important.
And so let's take it in this direction. And I'll start with Dr. Gallo. And this particular question will be for each of you. Where do we go from here? And have we failed a generation or have we not? Dr. Gallo?
Well, I don't think we failed a generation. Generations have changed. And so you have to look at that. Things that we did as college students, you and Mr. Bostic, and of course, our Professor Marshall, who did a lot of singing and going on, as well as directing plays. So I remember the change that when we had the white quarterback. Remember that?
The white
yes,
tiger, yes.
Yeah.
White tiger.
White tiger, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That was change. And they had, the students were not used to that. We also had a young lady who came from Lafayette, and she wanted to enroll at Grambling, and Prayers did let her enroll. He was not too much in favor of it, but he thought, okay, we'll do it. And so that was an example of, let's work with what we have, let's do what we have for our students, so that's a part of it. I remember that when they first integrated the schools in Ruston, the Ruston School Board came out and asked if they could pick up some Black students and take them to school in Ruston. So I said, yes, you can take mine. I had two girls. And they brought a bus in every morning and picked them up. They ran out and got on the bus. But when my Dean Cole found out about it, he said, well, I don't understand why you're letting them go to school in Ruston. Our teachers are very good teachers at the Alma J. Brown School. I said, I know that, but I want them to see that they're just as good as that child that's sitting in the next seat to them. They are not less than they are. And so my two girls went that entire year. And then after that, I brought them back to Grambling. But I wanted them to have that experience that you don't get mad because you're not sitting in the same seat with each other. You're not eating out of the same plate, or everything is individual. So don't feel like you're less than. I want you to see what they're like, and they can see what you're like. And so that was a good experience for my kids.
So let's move to Mr. Bostic. Mr. Bostic, we got about 5 minutes left. So
Sure.
let me let you have about 2 minutes. I'll round it out with Dr. Marshall. Same question. Where do we go from here? And have we failed or not failed a generation?
Well, I think we have to continue what we're doing. In order, the African proverb is that, you have to look to your past to understand your future. So we still need to call the names of all of those playwrights and those plays that laid the foundation for the Tyler Perrys, for all of those other plays that are now being written. I don't think that we have failed the generation. I think that generation has got to want to turn and, like the Sankofa, and look over their shoulders and respect what we do. And, and get away from that idea that technology, creates all of us as old dinosaurs, but the elders are the libraries. And so they have to learn that we are here and we have a wealth of wisdom that we are willing to pass on, but they have got to be willing to sit at the table and eat with our spoons so they can understand.
And that's why I really wanted to do this, so that they can see us and see you and learn about the culture, so that they can really have a direction. Because if you don't understand where you have come from, you're not going to have a direction in a space.
Not know where you're going.
Dr. Marshall, where are we going? And have we failed a generation or not?
No, we have not. We've not failed them at all. And I say that because back again to the product of our students now, because we have taught them that you're not only an artist, you're an activist.
Yes.
You hear me?
I hear you.
And that has really made me happy to see right now. The Lord has blessed me for 89 years, and I'm able to see students that I have taught, including Bostic, who have become activists. They are part of what's going on now.
Yes.
I've seen them on Facebook in protest. Black Lives Matter. I've seen them on panels, virtual as we are doing now, which address racism in marketing.
Yep.
You hear me? I've seen them carrying the torch as relates to the value of knowing our history.
Yes.
The value of knowing our history. and carrying that torch forward.
Mhm. Indeed.
And we are out of time. And I am so tremendously blessed to have had all three of you here with me because, you know, I'm good for sleeping at your feet. So look, Dr. Gallo, and like I told you, I'll be coming to knock at your door to get some more information just for me. But I appreciate each and every one of you. This was wonderful. This was fantastic. So Pam, is there anything else that you would like to say or conclude?
One moment. Amazing. How I wish I had been a student at Grambling State University.
All right.
Theater. I thought I was radical in the day. I didn't quite get the years that everyone was teaching and studenting, but I'm a Stephen F. Austin State University theater graduate
All
from
right.
1974. And to hear the legacy of this remarkable university, starting with the social life and going all the way through the academic life, and the phenomenal impact of the theater program and dance program, of course, at Grambling has been a remarkable treat for all of us. I'm so thankful that we are live on Facebook, and also that the session is being recorded, and I'm promised that I think that we all need to acknowledge that schools, the academic year has been as confusing as anything I've ever been in, and some students are just starting. But to have this recorded for our posterity and for the world to know the legacy of the Grambling State University Performing Arts Program, and to see the activity, as Roshanda and now you, Cherie, being on the program, will carry forth with art as activism, art as storytelling, art as documentation of what's going on in the world, and art as just really a remarkable opportunity for artists and audiences to, I shouldn't have said audiences, but audiences, excuse me, to connect and together to be changed because of the experience. Tonight has really put all of that in such an incredible context and framework. So I thank you, first of all, Roshanda, for coming up with this brilliant program and for how incredibly it's been presented. Dr. Gallo, as we talked about your life, we didn't talk about the fact that I believe your son is president of Grambling State University right now, and I don't think I heard much about that. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
You're not wrong, and he is president of Grambling State University. And he's a graduate of Grambling State University.
Okay, and I trust that President Gallo is also a very fond lover of the arts, and particularly the performing arts. So that's exciting.
Right, he is.
Dr. Marshall, what a thrill to have you on with us, and of course, how jealous we are that Lafayette, has you now instead of the Shreveport area. If you ever get bored down there and decide you're all ready for a Shreveport theater career, we are ready to welcome you back to Northwest Louisiana. And Mr. Bostic, what a thrill to have you in your gorgeous
yes.
surrounded by your art, your folklore, and to learn about your work as a storyteller. And so once again, we'll say the same thing. Oklahoma City doesn't deserve you. Come back home. Let's bring the kids back home. Let's bring the kids home where you all belong, and start it all over here. The idea of us being able to reinvigorate this community with the legendary artists from Grambling State University. And
Amen.
we were able to hear from Sonia Hester from Southern University, Shreveport. I know, Sonia, you're on the air right there, to have this incredible opportunity to see these musicians and actors and storytellers and folklorists and historians right here with us has just been so enriching. So thank you very, very much. Sonia, do you want to echo some of that? I thought she was coming on. I guess not.
Heard her.
What
Sonia?
about you, Cherie? I'm going to unmute you for one moment. Are you as young as you look in this?
Just to the.
Yes, I'm 18.
Well, Cherie, I hope you feel your life has changed here.
Yes, it has. Hearing everyone's experience right now is just it's overwhelming because it's so great. Like, I did not know a lot of these things, and it's really exciting, and it's taught me a lot about Grambling and about you all individually, and I'm very excited that I got to have the experience with you guys.
Amen.
Well,
Wonderful.
very good.
And thank you all for having us.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yes, I appreciate you guys. And again, this is not over for me. You're going to be hearing from me. You're probably going to get tired of me calling you, but it's okay.
Cherie, so that you can get credit for being here tonight, please don't forget to go into the chat, and the link is there for you to fill out your evaluation form. And
Okay.
to everyone else, if there are no more questions, I believe we could be here easily until midnight just visiting and catching up. But thank you very much for your time, and I will end the session for everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you
Good
so much.
night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.